What's going on, family? Welcome to the Keep Going podcast. We feature athletes, celebrities, entrepreneurs, people across all walks of life, telling their story and all the lessons inside the story. Today, we got a special treat for you. The one-legged legend, the wounded warrior. No, honestly, though, legend in his own right. Tomas, serial entrepreneur. I'd love to get into your story and who you are, and I'm so happy you're here, man.
Ooh, thank you for having me. I appreciate being here. I kind of like this place.
So I read your IG bio, and literally on your IG bio it says entrepreneur. Well, no, hold on. Yeah, entrepreneur, athlete, one-legged wonder. What does that mean? What does that mean?
You know, a lot of people always tell me, they go, I wonder how you do that.
That's what they say.
I've been told that a lot of times, whether it's my attitude about life, my attitude towards my accident, my amputation, my everything. When I talk to people and they're like, wow, you need to share your story. I just wonder how you did that. And I'm like, what's the big deal? I lost a leg.
Yeah.
But I understand. It's the fact that when this happened, I didn't allow this to handicap me for the rest of my life, you know?
Yeah.
That's just not my mindset.
So, like, this is the Keep Going podcast. What kind of keeps you going then? Building off of that.
Whew. Well, if you ask me what kept me going when it happened,
yeah,
my son kept me going. My son was, my accident happened 1 month shy of my son.
Your son's a stud.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I'm very proud of my son. My son at the time was 1 month away from his 8th birthday.
Yeah.
And I just remember knowing and thinking back then that there was no way I was going to leave and leave my son. I was not going to do that. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you a story. When I was in the ambulance, after they put me in the ambulance and they worked on me at the scene, I remember the EMS tech. We were driving away, and I was telling him, I go, write this phone number down in case I lose consciousness. This is the person I want you to contact.
Yeah.
And the guy asked me, he goes, do you want something for the pain? Because now remember, my leg is off. I'm like, I don't have my leg. It's literally detached. He's like, do you want something for the pain? I said, yes. And he goes, on a scale of 1 to 1,000, what's your pain level? A scale of 1 to 10, what's your pain level? Yeah. I'm like, whew, like a fucking 1,000. And he was like, he just looked at me.
It was actually detached.
Well, my leg was literally cut from here. It was cut all the way around this way.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, that's where it was. So it was completely off, like hamburger.
Like, how did that happen?
Okay, well, basically what happened was when I was riding, the point of impact between my motorcycle, I was riding a motorcycle, and it was a diesel truck. The diesel had like extended lug nuts on the right front wheel, and my motorcycle and my body made contact pretty much at the front of that cab while the front tire is spinning and turning.
Dude.
And that turned my leg into hamburger meat. Like, not to
How
gross
fast
you
were you
out.
going?
Like, no, normal speed. But you got to remember,
was it highway or like city?
Yes, we're on the highway.
Holy
shit. The diesel truck is moving at a high, he's moving at, we're on an off-ramp between freeways. So even then, his speed was probably
he was going
35 miles an hour, roughly.
Fast enough for this.
Fast enough for it to be turning and turn it into an
So you're back in the ambulance, and then you're literally, you tell them to take down the number.
Yeah, I tell him, write down this number, and call if something happens to me. And the guy looked at me, and he was like, you want something for the pain? I was like, yeah, sure. And he goes, scale of 1 to 10, where are you at? I go, 1,000. And he's like, okay. And he's like, are you're going to be all right? Like, he was more scared than I was.
Yeah.
And I said, I know I am. I said, I know I'm going to be all right. I said, I have a 7-year-old son at home, and I'm not raising him. I haven't made him a man yet.
Yeah.
And I said, I take a lot of pride in that because, I just did. So that was my motivation from the moment I was in the ambulance, even while I was in the hospital. And, this shit wasn't easy. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you like, oh, yeah, I handled it, no fucking problem or whatever. Not bullshit. It was 4 months of being in the hospital, 4 months of not being able to get out of bed, 4 months of not even be able to get up and use the bathroom. I tell people, I'm like, it's very, very humbling to go from being able to literally move the world to not being able to wipe your ass.
It's insane.
It is fucking insane, and how do you come back from that? How do you pivot from that?
Yeah.
And
how did you come back from that? There's a lot of things probably.
It's a lot of things,
Yeah.
but number one is the fact that, like I said, my son was my motivation. I would just look at him and I was like, okay, he's 8. I still need to see him graduate from high school. I
Yeah.
still need to see him get married. You know, I still need, and even if he doesn't get married, he wants to be a player for life. Just kidding. But if let's say he doesn't get married, but I said there are certain things that I need to be around for.
Yeah.
I need to make sure that he turns into the responsible man, the leader that I want him to be.
Yeah.
So that was my motivation. To put it plain and simply,
Yeah.
my son. My son was my
Your
motivation.
son got you there.
Absolutely. And he still keeps me going.
And
Little fucker.
I am. The kid's a legend. So, anyways, what I was gonna say, with that being said, what's life like now? You know, you're 9 years removed, right? No pun intended.
Hey, I just got that.
By the way, he's got a great sense of humor. He literally called me right before the podcast because I got this corny ass voicemail that I have, and like he's like, I don't even know what you said, but he left his.
The voicemail is, "Hi, this is Keaton. Leave your name and your number twice,
Yeah.
so that I know I get it." So I was like, "Okay, my name is so and so, and this is my number," and I said it twice.
Yeah.
You know, and by the way, I'm gonna be running 10 minutes late. Not because I'm running late, just that was what famous people fucking do, bro. Celebrities never show up on time, dog. You know, so I'm feeling like a fucking celebrity today. I'm gonna show up and make an entrance.
But literally, my family does the same thing. They'll like make fun of me because I set that up, I don't know, a few years ago, because I was like, I started out in business. It's like, hey, you gotta make sure you leave your number twice when you have your voicemail. I was like, okay. Anyways.
You should have seen the first voicemail I ever left. To this day, I'll never forget it. And I was told by my special agent in charge that I had to take it off. Okay?
You had to take it off.
Yeah, and this was my voicemail. Because I had to take it off because it was unprofessional. I had U.S. attorneys calling me and leaving me messages and stuff, and it was very unprofessional. But this was a message. It was like, "Hi, this is Tomas. You reached my voicemail.
Yeah.
And what the fuck do you want?" And it was like that for years.
Say that into the camera. I wouldn't mess with this guy.
So this was my voicemail. This was my early 20s. I just started working as a federal government, federal agent. And my voicemail was this. It was like, "Hi, this is Tomas, and you reached my voicemail. Now what the fuck do you want?" And it was my special agent in charge was like, "Hey, De La Mora, you need to change that. It's a little too unprofessional." But I'm like, it's funny thoh, right?
Yeah, that shit is
He
funny.
thought it was funny, but
I think it's funny.
The U.S. attorney that complained to him didn't think it was funny.
That's funny as heck.
Thanks a lot,
used to have
Alexander Mayorkas. Still remember the name.
He remembers. Wait, so why was the U.S. attorney calling you? Like, what was that? Like,
Oh, I used to work, prior to doing what I did here, I was a federal agent for the U.S. government.
wow.
And when I first began, I used to work for the U.S. Marshals, the Department of Justice, the Bureau of Prisons.
Oh my gosh.
And I used to do a lot of cool stuff. And
Yeah.
in the realm of doing a lot of cool stuff,
How did you get into that though?
Woo, I always wanted to go into law enforcement as a kid.
Yeah.
There was just something that when I was little, I realized. So I realized later on in life that I was made to protect people.
Yeah.
In a sense, like look over people. It's in me. It's innate. And I didn't realize that till I was in my career already. But when I was little, I'm talking when I was 10, 12, my formidable years, I remember looking at law enforcement as an admirable job. It's
Right.
an admirable position in society, and it's a needed position.
Yeah.
You know, I'm one of those persons that I believe in right and wrong. I believe in there's good and evil. I don't believe in this.
Do you think there's a difference between being a good person and a nice person?
Absolutely.
What is it? What do you think?
Being a nice person means that you do nice things when it's convenient.
Right.
It's nice.
Yeah.
Being a good person, to me, it's who you are all the time.
Yeah.
And sometimes, unfortunately, being a good person, you're put in a position where you're gonna have to do things that are not nice.
Yeah.
And I say that because I was trained to be that person.
Right.
You know, and sometimes people ask me things like, are you very religious? And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I'm not. And they say, why not? And I'm like, it's just me.
Yeah.
I can't go and look and read religion and it says things like thou shalt not kill, but yet I train every day how to kill
Right.
people.
Right.
It messes with my psyche. And if you want to be successful, you have to train to be successful, and that isn't just physical training; it's mental training too. So I'm not going to confuse myself and go to church and be like, oh yeah, thou shalt not kill, because in that split second, that could be the difference between life and death.
Yeah.
In a use of force situation. So because of that, I chose not to be very religious. I was like, just be a good person,
Right.
you know, all the time.
What's your favorite story from, or best story, however you want to phrase it?
Best? Oh man, it depends
from
what
being an agent.
it depends what section of my memory you jog into, because I got tons of them. And
something like Training Day, like Denzel. You got some crazy stuff going on like that, or no?
Crazy Day. I'll tell you this much. I'll tell you this story because it's one's fresh in my memory. I recently talked about this on another podcast, and
that's right. You're famous.
That's why I'm famous.
Yeah, see, I know.
He knows, and so
he showed up 10 minutes late. He let me know via voicemail. Then he let me know.
So basically, when my leg came off, I had to tie a tourniquet to save my own life.
Right.
And when I tell people this, they're like, "Yeah, bullshit. You didn't do that." And I was like, "No, I did." Like, "Oh, you must have been freaking out." I was like, "No, I wasn't."
Yeah.
And they tell me, they're like, "Well, you mean to tell me you were calm?" And I was like, "Yeah." The individual I was with, I was trying to calm him down because he was freaking out and he was looking at my injury, and I'm looking at him. It's one of my best friends. I'm like, "Dave, look at me. Look at my eyes. Do not focus right here. Look at my eyes. I need you right now. I need you to be focused. I need you getting statements. Driver's license. This kind of stuff. I want him to keep his head in the game.
Right.
But that's because of years of constant training and so forth. And some people ask me, they said the training. I took my training very, very serious.
Yeah.
Just like when I'm in here working out, I take it very serious. I fuck around, I have a good time, but I take it very serious.
You're getting after it.
I get after it, exactly. And I remember one time we were in training, and our tactics instructor, we were going over tourniquets that day. And it's a friend of mine named John Jones. And the class, most of the agents, they were like, "Well, we've heard this before. This is our refresher course. We don't have to really pay attention." And I'm the type that if you're teaching somebody something, you get all the attention, you get all the respect and admiration. You're a fucking teacher, you're a coach. That's how I was raised. And they weren't giving him that respect. And I kind of checked everybody and I said, "Hey, pay attention, motherfuckers. The information here can one day save your life."
Right.
And that information saved mine.
Right.
Because when I did my tourniquet, I remember I literally felt like I had John Jones looking at me while I'm tying it, making sure I did it right. And
shout out to John Jones.
Shout out to John Benjamin Jones. So, months later, I get out of the hospital and I go visit my old job. When I walked in, we had a muster. All the agents were there, and I walked in and I was telling everybody about training. I was like, "I take your training serious, man. This shit saved my life." I'm like, "Look, I'm gonna tell you what happened." And I didn't know John Jones was right there. And I'm like talking. I'm like, "Hey, by the way, is he here?" And I look over to my left. He's in my blind side, and I look over to my left, and he's just right there looking at me, and he's like he was tripping out because here I am giving him his flowers in front of everybody.
Right.
And my boy is so humble. He was just like, he didn't know how to take it,
Yeah.
But that's a perfect example. I tell people, take your training serious, man. Take it very serious. It's life and could be life and death. It was for me.
Right. Wow.
And, I'm still here.
Changed your whole life.
Absolutely.
Saved your life.
Saved my
Not even
life.
changed, just saved your life.
My life, exactly.
With that being said, that's one of your most memorable stories. I want to know what's the stupidest thing you've done on the job? On the job.
How much time do we have?
On the job. Too much time.
Woo, on the job. Stupidest thing I've ever done. I'll be honest with you. I don't know what the statute of limitations are on that, so I'm not going to delve too deep there.
Okay, stupidest thing you've done in life.
Oh, man, stupidest thing I've done in life.
If you remember it.
Oh, yeah. I remember one time. And
at band camp?
At band camp. So, because this friend of mine, he just retired. He was a deputy U.S. Marshal. And when I first started my career, I started with him. And he was the first friend I made in law enforcement. And it's funny because I show up the first day at work. I'm working for the U.S. Marshals, and they introduced me. The guy's like, "Oh, this is Tomas. He's going to be working with us, blah, blah, blah." And this kid looked at me. We were kids back then. We were 21, 22 years old. He looks at me, and he goes, "Tomas."
What was drinking age? Was it 18 or 21? 21.
And he just looked at me, and he goes, "Do you have a brother named Tony?" And I looked at him, and I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Okay." And I was like, "How does he know my brother, So first break I had, I run to the phone. I call my brother at work, and I'm like, "Hey, do you know a guy named El Rios?" He's like, "Yeah, Tommy, he saved my life in Saudi." I'm like, "Oh, he's a good dude." He goes, "Tommy, you can trust him with your life. This guy he's awesome." I go back to him like, "Al, my brother just spoke very, very highly of you. I don't know you, bro, but I want to be your friend,
Yeah.
Well, we became friends. And so fast forward, I'm working in Chicago. I had, after 9/11, I took a different position. I started working in Chicago. And I call him up one day.
Working in Chirac.
In Chirac. And I call him up. I'm like, hey, Al, I'm going to be in LA the next couple of days. Let's go for a ride. Back then, we used to ride Harleys and stuff. Let's go for a ride. And he's like, yeah, let's go. It's like a Wednesday night. I fly in. It's December. I'm excited. I get to ride my Harley in December. I can't do it in Chicago.
Right.
I'm here.
It's winter.
It's winter.
If nobody knows,
nobody
snow
knows
on the ground.
Shit. It's cold as fuck over there.
Yeah.
And LA, it's like, fuck, we're washing our cars in this weather. It's 50 degrees. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
So I get him and another boy, his name is Chava. We go hang out. And I'm like, oh, let's go get a beer somewhere. Hey, I know my friend's place. Let's go to a sushi bar. And we just started getting tore up on sake. We started drinking sake like it was water.
Sake's...
Oh, man. It was... So we're in Sunset Plaza in West Hollywood, West Hollywood area. And we're in Sunset Plaza, my boy's sushi restaurant. And we are hammered. And like I said, this was years ago, 20 years ago, whatever. But we actually got in our vehicles, on our motorcycles, and drove home.
Yep.
Biggest bonehead move.
Shout out to all the kids out there watching.
Yes.
Don't do that.
Don't do that shit. Call Uber, call Lyft. There's no excuse anymore,
right.
But things like that, we look back and we're like, hey, we got lucky, man. We made it home in one piece. And, kind of like we woke up the next day, we're like, what the fuck did we do last night,
Right.
Stupid shit like that. I mean, we all do dumb shit like that.
Okay, what's the smartest thing you've done then?
Marrying my wife.
That was the safe answer.
No, actually, it's not just not just the safest. It's the smartest one too. My wife.
Shout out to your wife.
Yeah, she's somewhere around here. She's working out.
With that being said, no, this is how we talk. Literally, when I see him throughout the gym or wherever I'm at, we BS. Like, we don't take life too serious
at all.
But we have serious.
We take life serious, but we don't take it that serious.
Yeah,
because it's not that serious. It's just life.
Yeah.
It's over before you know it.
Exactly.
And no one's getting out of this shit alive, man. Trust me.
Nobody's making it.
Nobody's making it out alive.
Nothing matters. No, some things matter. But with that being said, he shares so much wisdom with me. I remember the story you told me about the football coach for the 49ers. I feel like you need to share this. This is an incredible story. Okay,
so once I was getting on a flight, I was in San Francisco. We're flying to New York. And I'm sitting down. I'm in row.
Football fans, listen up.
Yeah, I'm in row 2. Some of the younger football fans might not understand this and recognize this, but I'm in row 2 of the plane, and I'm in this first class section of the plane. And
because you're famous, first class. Okay,
yeah, famous people fly first class.
We get it.
We've established this already, Keaton.
Yeah.
So I'm in row 2, and in row 1, I see Bill Walsh come in and sit down. Now, Bill Walsh was former coach of the 49ers, and not only that, but this man was the brainchild of the West Coast offense. I mean, he changed the face of football, not just the 49ers. So he gets on the plane, and I'm like, oh shit, it's Coach Walsh. And being a lifelong 49er fan, I was like, man, how can I talk to him, but do it in a way that's authentic and genuine and not bullshitting? Because everybody's walks up to him, hey coach, how you doing, coach? Oh, nice to meet you, coach. But in reality, is it really nice to meet somebody if you don't talk to them? You just shake their hand?
Right.
To me, it's not. It's bullshit.
Yeah.
So I just looked at him and I'm like, what can I do? And I'm like, I know what, I'm gonna write him a note.
I agree with that, by the way. When you say it's nice to meet you, and it's just like this little exchange.
It's more like nice to touch you.
Yeah, nice to touch. Right.
So I get my notes out and I start writing him a note. And I'm like, hey, Coach Walsh, I know you don't know me, but you live in the public eye. And being a fact that you're a coach of the Niners and I'm a big Niner fan, I just want to say thank you for all the wonderful memories you gave me growing up as a Niner fan. Yeah. And I started going down the list of my 3 favorite ones. Like one of them was when they played the Eagles and they were down by 4 touchdowns at halftime, and Joe Montana threw 5 touchdowns in the second half to beat them. Like stuff like that. Of course, the Super Bowls, stuff like that. The perfect record that Montana had in Super Bowls. I'm just telling him this, and I'm like, I just want to say thank you very much. I'm going to respect your privacy. I'm going to leave you alone, but I just want you to know that I'm very grateful to you, and I just want to wish you luck in all your future endeavors in life.
Right.
And I got up. Flight was maybe 15 minutes, so they had just turned off the seatbelt sign. I get up to use the restroom, and I walk over to him, and I said, Coach Walsh, this is for you. He looked at me scared. He thought I was serving him with paperwork. And I'm like, this is for you. I go inside the restroom. When I come out, I see him reading the note, and his assistant who's with him is reading it with him. And he reads it, and I sit down, and I'm like, oh, shit, I hope he doesn't give me a hard time about this, you know?
Right.
He gets up, he walks over to the side, and where I'm at, and he goes, Tomas? Yeah. He goes, who wrote this? I said, I did. He said, when? I said, right now, when I saw you get on the plane. And he goes, this is the nicest thing anybody's ever done for me. And I'm like, come on, stop fucking around. Yeah. And he's like, no, it's my pleasure to meet you, Tomas. And he put his hand out. And I'm like, nah, fucker. I'm a hugger, man. I get up, I hug him. And I'm like, you have too many good memories for me. Right. I got to give you a hug, man. So I hug him. I'm like, thank you very much. And I go, I didn't want to bother you, but I did want. He was like, no, please. This is the nicest thing. I'm like, cool. Flight was over. He comes up to me again. Tomas, once again, nice meeting you. I'm like, hey, bring it in, fucker. You know how we do it. I give him a hug. I get off the plane. I'm walking off. People are like, hey, man, who are you? Are you famous? I'm like, yeah. He's like, because I see that Coach Walsh is talking to you, you know, that's whatever. Fast forward, I'm working security at the Super Bowl. And this was the Super Bowl that was in New York. Don't ask me what number. I just remember it was the Seattle Broncos Super Bowl.
10 years ago almost.
Yeah. And I'm working that Super Bowl, and I run into Joe Montana. And I was like, oh, shit, Joe Montana. Joe, cool. Fucking greatest quarterback ever. I don't give a shit what any of these Brady fans say. Joe Montana is the greatest fucking ever. Joe Montana is the only quarterback to never throw a fucking interception. 4-0.
We're clipping that up.
Shit.
We're going to ask the fans.
And he did this shit in the time when they played real football, not this flag football, can't touch the quarterback bullshit. Anyways, but go back to my story.
Going on a riff.
So I told Joe Montana, and I said, hey, nice to meet you. He said, oh, nice to meet you. And I said, I met Coach Walsh one day. I go, it's one of the greatest experiences of my life. He goes, really? I go, yeah. I goes on a flight from San Francisco to New York, and I wrote him a letter, and Joe Montana goes, wait, what? And I said, yeah, I wrote him a note. He goes, was it a letter? You walked up to him on a plane, you gave it to him? And I was like, yeah, how do you know? He goes, he told me when that happened.
Dang.
And I was like, what? And he goes, man, thank you for doing that for my friend. I get emotional telling this story. And the reason why I get emotional, because when Joe Montana told me this, it was after Bill Walsh died.
Wow.
And I remember when he died, I was thinking like, oh, that's fucked up. He died, you know, it's part of my childhood memories.
Yeah.
And Joe Montana goes, thank you for doing that for my friend.
Yeah.
Like he called me and he told me, he's like, the nicest thing happened to me today with a fan. And he goes, da-da-da-da, and he told me about it. He goes, that's why I know about that letter. And I'm in the Super Bowl, I'm just like,
wow. It's insane.
Yeah. And I was just like, fuck, thank you. Like, fuck, I did that. That's cool.
Yeah.
Like, and I was part of that, making that happen. I'm like, I'll take this fucking memory with me forever.
Right.
You know, and I love it.
Right. So, that's why I live by
Joe Montana, Bill Walsh story.
That's pretty cool. I wanted you to share that. Cool. Going along those lines, that's why I always do one good deed a day.
You absolutely have to.
Things like that.
Yeah.
You might not even know what somebody's going through. That's why
you have the ability
to
impact and change somebody's day very easily just with your actions.
Right. That's why I'm always curious before I get furious too. I just read that out of a book, by the way.
I like that. Curious before you
Shout out to whatever book that was. Because you never know what somebody's going through. So you always got to approach it with an open mind and in the sense of you got to show empathy.
True that.
Empathy is one of my core values. So, but yeah, I wanted you to share that because it's a beautiful story.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
I had I wanted to ask this question too. Hold on. I make a couple notes here. Oh yeah. I guess we were talking about your son earlier. You talk about your relationship with your son, you got other relationships. How do you approach relationships romantically and in business? Because you've been through a lot of bullshit. You know how to vet people out, it seems like. Because even like when you created this gym, you make sure somebody's aligned with what you want. You know, for business, personally, like how do you handle your relationships in life?
How do I handle my relationships?
Or manage them, or create new ones?
Let's put it this way. There's a saying I love, and it says, don't stay where you're tolerated. Go where you're celebrated.
Yeah.
And it's true. It holds a lot of weight. When I think about past situations that did not work out for me,
Yeah.
I always love to decipher, okay, what was it about that situation that didn't not work,
Right.
you know? And I can't say it boils down to one thing every single time because every situation is different, but it always boils down to the same thing. Okay, I was there longer than I needed to be because I was not respected and valued the way I
Right.
should have been,
Right.
you know? So now the way I approach business, the way I approach relationships, it's all the same. I know my value. And I'm not saying that I'm better than anybody. I'm not saying that, nothing like that. I'm just saying I know my value. And if you're going to come into my life, you're going to bring me value because I'm going to give you a shit ton of value.
Right.
And if I feel that we become a situation where it's one way, I cut that shit off.
Right.
And I've gotten really, really good at cutting out dead weight out of my life.
Yeah.
And in the past, I have not always been that way. I was like, no, I want to help this person out. Oh, I've been blessed. I'm going to be in a position I want to bless others and so forth. And yeah, that's true. There's no doubt about that. But I've also realized that I don't stay where I'm tolerated. I go where I'm celebrated. And I think that's been a major, major difference in the shift because now I look at the relationships that are around me and they are so valuable to me that I don't want to imagine my life without them.
Right. You have a beautiful life. You want to keep it that way.
I do. I absolutely love my life. I was just telling my wife this morning. She came in and my wife just surprised me. She was like, "Baby, can I give you a hug?" And I'm like, "Yes, please, give me a hug." And in that hug and that embrace, I was just explaining to her. I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Babe, I have a surprise for you." My wife, is she listening? No. So I'm taking my wife somewhere that she likes.
Yeah.
And I don't like telling her because my wife's horrible at surprises. My wife's the type that she'll buy me something and she can't even wait till the day of my birthday or Christmas to give it to me. She's like, "Oh, I can't take it anymore. I gotta give it to you." So I said, we got to work on that anxiety.
Right.
Some anxiety. So I told her, I go, last night I was thinking, I said, I purchased something I want to take you to. It's on Sunday. We don't have plans. She goes, "Oh my God, what is it?" I said, "It's a surprise.
Yeah.
You have to wait until," I go, "You have to wait until later on this evening and I'll tell you, but you have to wait till Sunday night to see it." And she was like, "Why are you doing that?" I said, "I want you to work on your anxiety that you build up when you know there's a surprise coming." So she was like, "Okay." And on the way over here, she was like, "Babe," she goes, "just surprise me tomorrow. I'm going to work on this. I'm going to wait till tomorrow." I'm like, "Cool. Great. Wonderful."
Wow. So many beautiful stories that you have. You live a beautiful life.
I mean, I live a very blessed life, Keaton. I'll tell you this much. I'm very, the whole fame thing, that's me fucking around. But being serious, being completely authentic, I live a very, very blessed life. Honestly, 9 years ago, I shouldn't be here, man. I mean, I died twice 9 years ago. I died, technically, I lost so much blood. Even with the tourniquets, I lost so much blood that I had other issues, other medical issues that resulted from the blood loss, And being in the hospital 4 months, it wasn't just because I liked being there. I had a lot of other medical issues. And in total, I had about 11 surgeries in those 4 months. So that's 11 anesthesias. And, I have memory issues now. I don't remember things clearly the way I used to. My short-term memory.
Remember that time I gave you $1 million?
Exactly. And then I turned around and I flipped it and I made it into 4 and I said I was going to split it with you. Well, I forgot to split it with you, bro. Like I said, my memory's fucked. So I'm $4 million richer now. Thank you. But yeah. So going back to what I was saying, I'm very fucking blessed. I'm blessed to be alive. And now that I think I got to a point in my life where so many people have been asking me, you need to share more, you need to talk more. A year ago.
That's why I wanted you on here.
A year ago, unfortunately, I was at a funeral, one of my best friends when his mother passed away. And when I was there, I was talking to all the kids, all the nephews and everybody. And like I had everybody's attention and I'm talking to them and they're like, "Hey, you should do a podcast. You're great at speaking. You're a truth teller. You're funny." And I was like, "You think so? You think people want to hear me?"
Yes.
I go, "I don't want to fucking hear me sometimes, And but I've always been shy about sharing details about my story because in my opinion, nobody cares.
I care.
You care.
I care.
You care.
Look,
maybe someone
I'm looking
out there
into
cares.
the camera. I care.
And So, but that I know that's my story. It's my story. I tell, nobody cares, nobody wants to hear it, because when I do say it, people are like, "Oh my God, that's interesting. That happened to you." I'm like, "Yeah, what's the big deal?" They're like, "That's crazy."
That's
and I'm
why
like,
you're saying you're blessed. I'm like, no, our audience is blessed because they get to learn from what you've been through.
well, in that case, this is part one of how many? Just
Actually, though, we'll have you back. But just before we dip out, if there's one lesson for somebody that's going through it right now, or a takeaway, what would you share with them? They might be in the, you've been very low in life. What's one thing that you would share with them to get them out of that hole or that setback or that failed attempt or whatever that may be for them?
Ooh,
It's probably a lot, yeah.
it is. Because I can tell you, there were times when I think back to, like, when I was in the hospital, I was in ICU, and I remember they would come in. They're like, "Hey, the surgery we had, it didn't work. You still have this issue," and so forth. And I remember there was one point where I gave up. I was like, "Okay, I'm done. I'm done. I'm cooked. This is my." In my mind, I'm thinking.
Did you get that term from your son? You're cooked?
No, I think I probably gave it to him.
Oh.
So at this point, I said to myself, I was like, "Yeah, I'm cooked, man. All these surgeries are not working.
Yeah.
This is my way of learning that I'm about to die. So get your affairs in order." At one point, I called my attorney. I'm like, "Get your ass over here right now. We're going to change some things in the will, blah, blah, blah." And my family's like, "Calm down. You're going to be okay." I'm like, "Bullshit. Don't tell me to fucking calm down."
Yeah.
Like, I know. Because I was very, very determined that I was going to die. And I'll never forget the day that happened. The funeral we're just talking about.
Yeah.
When I was in Mexico. That woman, my compadre's mom, came in to see me in the hospital. And when she came in with her daughter Linda, and I remember right away she went into straight mom mode and taking care of me mode, and she saw that I was like literally having a breakdown.
Yeah.
And she right away grabbed a rag, put warm water on it, put it on my forehead. She started praying on me and stuff, and she calmed me down.
Yeah.
It was just her energy just calmed me down, and I went from being and that day she gave me hope. Because I was like, okay, maybe it's not this bad. Because she was like, "It's okay, you're gonna be all right. It's gonna take you. You're gonna do this. You're gonna do that." But she gave me hope in that moment that I didn't have.
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking, her husband, who was like a second dad to me, this man I call the chief. I just remember him looking at me and saying, "You don't lose," because that's my saying. I always tell people I don't lose.
Yeah.
I either learn, or I try again, or whatever. I don't lose.
You told that to me when I did my first bodybuilding show.
What did I tell you?
You said you didn't lose up there by just showing up and doing this.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. That's where that comes from.
I had to keep reminding myself that no matter what, I will not lose.
Yeah.
And no matter what, at the end of the day, those are my last words. I will not lose. I'll probably put that shit on my gravestone. If I do have one, it'll be like, "I will not lose."
Well, I feel so blessed. The audience should feel blessed. Where can people reach you to show you love? What are your handles?
Yellow Pages? Just kidding. Does that shit still exist?
Just dated himself.
By the way, I'm 52 years old, man. I'm
He
very
looks good
fucking
for
old.
52. He's a very active guy. He's getting after it.
So, but yeah, to reach me, my name is Tomas De La Mora. My Instagram is Tomas _De La Mora, TOMAS _DELAMORA. You can reach us at this beautiful gym that I built here. It's called Live Alpha. My company built it, Black Label Building. Hit us up for all your construction needs. You dream it, we build it. And so that's something else that I do besides helping Paco run this beautiful gym here. I help my boy Ricardo run his construction company too.
Beautiful. Well, stay tuned for more. We're going to have you back. And thank you so much for coming.
Love to be back, and thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I got you. Oh my gosh.